vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Janaba Lava Girid Baradhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai amṛṣyamāṇā Sabarāja Sto there to teṣāṁ Maresi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnupam Sabarāja Sto there to teṣāṁ Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki. Go Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 54. We've been given texts 6 through 8. We'll chant text 6. Teṣāṁ tad-vikramaṁ vīrā gada-saṅkarṣanādayaḥ amṛṣyamāṇā nārācair jaghnuḥ haya-gajān rathān teṣāṁ tad-vikramaṁ vīrā gada-saṅkarṣanādayaḥ amṛṣyamāṇā nārācair jaghnuḥ haya-gajān rathān teṣāṁ tad-vikramaṁ vīrāḥ gada-saṅkarṣanādayaḥ amṛṣyamāṇā nārācair jaghnuḥ haya-gajān rathān Vaishnavis, teṣāṁ, by them, the opposing kings. Tat, that. Vikramam, show of prowess. Vīrā, the heroes. Gada, the younger brother of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Saṅkarṣaṇa, Lord Balarāma. Ādayaḥ, and others. Amṛṣyamāṇā, not tolerating. Nārācair, with arrows made of iron. Jaghnuḥ, they struck. Haya, horses. Gajān, elephants. Rathān, and chariots. Translation: the heroes of the Lord's army, headed by Gada and Saṅkarṣaṇa, could not tolerate the aggression of the opposing kings. Thus, with iron arrows, they began to strike down the enemy's horses, elephants, and chariots. Next text. The heads of soldiers fighting on chariots, horses, and elephants fell to the ground by the millions. Some heads wore earrings and helmets, others turbans. Lying all around were thighs, legs, and fingerless hands, along with hands clutching swords, clubs, and bows, and also the heads of horses, donkeys, elephants, camels, wild asses, and humans. Purport. Krabha indicates the portion of the hand from the wrist to the base of the fingers. The same word may also indicate an elephant's trunk, and thus in this verse, the implication is that the thighs lying on the battlefield resembled the trunks of elephants. Om Gana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitang Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This pastime of Krishna joining his internal potency has so many layers and so many aspects. Yesterday, Malati Devi was kind enough to give us an overview. And during that overview, I had some realization that you can never hear this enough. Just like the sages at Naimisaranya in the first canto said to Sutta Goswami, Vayam Natrip Uttama Sloka Vikrame Yachchinvitam Rasaganam Swadu Pare. We never tire of hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who have some rasagan, some understanding of the taste of their relationship with Krishna, relish hearing these leelas at every step. Swadu Pare. Of course, we aspire for just a taste of that relationship. In this pastime, you have so many glaring opposites. As we heard yesterday, you have the pure love demonstrated by Srimati Rukmini and Krishna. Opposite that, though, pure hate. And then you have beauty, the beauty of Srimati Rukmini, described in 10 aspects. Contrasted with that beauty is the gore of the coming battle that we're now in the midst of. Let's go back to how this whole scene was set up. Prabhupada gives a hint in the Krishna book that the friends of Rukmi were coming more for a battle than for a marriage. There was a huge military buildup. So much so that Balarāma heard about it, both from Bhishmaka's family affairs, as well as Balarāma heard from the demons that were gathering. Try to understand the situation. Rukmini is supposed to marry Shishupal. You can't imagine a more horrible combination. This was going to be a marriage made in hell. How do these things go on? Do you understand Shishupal? How demoniac he was? Even as a baby, before he could talk properly, he would blaspheme Krishna. He would chant Krishna's names with disgust. Pundari Kaksha. Garuda Vahana. The beauty of the Lord, however, was starting to infuse in his heart. He couldn't get Krishna out of his mind, even though such disgust manifested in him when he would think of Krishna's beauty and chant Krishna's names. So it's not just that Rukmini is marrying Shishupal, it's all of Shishupal's cronies, all of his mates. You can't imagine a more demoniac bunch. Jarasandha, Pondraka, Dantavakra, Vidurat. They were all coming to the wedding. And they had heard it could be that Kṛṣṇa is going to try to kidnap Rukmini. We'll be ready. So as Prabhupada said, it seemed that they were coming more for a battle than for the marriage. Such a military buildup. Why? Because of hatred. So remember, you have the pure love between Rukmini and Kṛṣṇa, and you have the hatred of these demoniac kings. Who did they hate? Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. Couldn't stand their guts. So they were ready for war, just like what's happening in the world today. Military buildup. Everyone's building up their nuclear arsenals. Friends and enemies becomes the way of life. Which side are you on? Who are you allied with? So see this military buildup of Shishupal's friends in the current context. You have the U.S. determined to spend in the next 30 years $2 trillion on modernizing the nuclear arsenal. You can't conceive of what can you conceive of even a billion? What to speak of a trillion or 2 trillion? You have China publicly stated, by the year 2030, we want to triple the amount of nuclear warheads we have, from 300 to 1,000. And the UK, innocent UK, is increasing their nuclear weapons spending by 40%. So we're explaining these things so you can see what was the mood surrounding Rukmini's marriage. A huge military buildup with all the biggest demons around, all pure haters of Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. So let's move ahead to the scene where Rukmini leaves the temple of Durga. Of course, as we heard yesterday, she's praying to Durga, let Kṛṣṇa be my husband. She had arranged for the procession from the temple. After leaving the temple, she had arranged a procession. This was her strategy, the acharyas explained. She's thinking, this will be a chance, this public procession, for Kṛṣṇa to see my beauty. So she's leaving the temple, and she's clutching the arm of her girlfriend. Why? Because of affection, and also because she was thinking, when I see the beauty of Kṛṣṇa, I may start trembling and fainting, so hold on to my girlfriend. This is the overwhelming beauty that's going on. And you know the description of Rukmini in those 10 aspects. So she's proceeding outside, which normally she wouldn't do, but she wants Kṛṣṇa to see her. And she's looking for Kṛṣṇa, but doing it in a very strategic way. She adjusts the ring on her hand, and then with her left hand, she pulls back some strands of hair over her eyes, and then looks. But she doesn't want to meet the eyes of the ordinary persons. She's looking for Kṛṣṇa, so she looks very carefully without acknowledging the mundane persons. And then she sees Kṛṣṇa. Meanwhile, you know what's going on. These great, powerful military generals had dropped their weapons and collapsed on the ground, overwhelmed by lust. There are various aspects to what they were undergoing. I'll try to explain. First, there was the beauty. But they were not actually seeing Rukmini. Rukmini has Shakti. She defeated them by presenting to them a Maya Rukmini. Because how can these rogues see the internal potency? Think about that. Perception is controlled by Krishna. So what they saw was not what Krishna saw. They weren't qualified. But indeed, what they saw was an inconceivable beauty from the material point of view. They said, this must be Deva Maya. She's a production of the demigods. She's not human. Look at that beauty out of this world. Out of this world meant beyond earth. As they were collapsing to the ground, they were thinking like this. And each one was thinking, as each one collapsed on the ground, look at my beauty, look at hers. She's actually meant for me. When I think of my beauty and look at her beauty, meanwhile they're collapsing on the ground. And as they're collapsing on the ground, they see Krishna give Rukmini a smiling glance. And that just terrorizes the demons. Oh no, he's gonna get her, he's gonna get her. So all this is going through their minds as they collapse to the ground. But they were not seeing the internal potency. Hearing the stories told in the past few days of devotees and their wonderful activities reminded me of the most vivid example I experienced about how Krishna controls perception. You see, this whole mirage of conditioned life means that we think our perception is independent. I see what I want to see. When actually, we see what Krishna allows us to see. This is a very humiliating point. And this is why the Shastra speaks so heavily about those who simply rely upon their own perceptions and intelligence. They think it's my seeing, it's my cognition. I'm the controller of my consciousness. Whereas what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Mata smitir jnanam apavanam cha sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto. I'm seated in everyone's heart. I allow you to forget. I allow you to remember. I allow you to have knowledge. Even if you want to forget Krishna, you can't do it on your own. You need his help. Once we can grasp this point, so much illusion slackens its grip on us. In order to see Krishna, in order to understand Krishna, I need Krishna's mercy. You know, Krishna is known as Adokshaja. Generally, devotees define that as he's beyond the range of material senses. But a more dynamic and deeper definition of Adokshaja is that Krishna pushes your senses down. You're thrusting your senses toward Krishna, he's pushing them down. No, you can't see me. You can't understand me. So I was, during my humble attempt in the Soviet bloc during the Iron Curtain days, it was deep in the Soviet bloc, and we would do anything with devotees to find a safe place just to sit down and have a quiet kirtan and talk about Srimad Bhagavatam. That was the pinnacle. Oh, does anyone know a house, a flat where we can go to for that? Because most young people never had their own flats then. So you always had to find a place where the parents had gone away for the weekend or something. So the devotees told me excitedly, we got a place. It's a big flat room for 20 devotees. We were so happy. Now we can have Bhagavatam class together. Of course, I didn't look like I was from that part of the world. It's the palest part of the world, and I had a bit of a permanent suntan. So I would only try to go out at night. Because if I go out during the day, people would literally stop their cars. They couldn't figure out. He's not dark enough to be from Africa. What is he, Italian, Sicilian, Moroccan, Libyan? They'd never seen, you know. So I just going out at night. So anyway, I'll tell you why that is an important point. So there we are having Bhagavatam class. I'm wanted by the KGB. So the devotees were seated all in a circle. And there I was, as Shukadeva Goswami says. And then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see the front door open. And in walks this real tough-looking lady. The classic stereotype Soviet-looking lady. Just what the devotees didn't tell me in their enthusiasm of arranging this place was that, yes, it was owned by the mother of a devotee, but that mother was a ranking officer in the police. You know, the devotees were so happy. Maharaj, we got a place. We can talk about Krishna. We can hear Bhagavatam. They didn't tell me one crucial point of information. So there I am holding forth, doing my little best to speak Bhagavatam. And this lady walks in. And she just doesn't rush in like, what's going on in my house? No, she came in with such police discipline. She walked very carefully, and she went to the circle and walked right up to the first person in the circle. She's in the center and stands right in front of the first person, memorizes the face. She's that far away from everyone's face. Goes to the next one, and the next one, the next one. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, what happens when she gets to me? I don't exactly look Slavic. I'm obviously a foreigner, and I'm obviously involved in seditious anti-government activities of speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm already hot with the KGB. This is it. I'm busted. I don't know when I'll get out of behind the Iron Curtain. So she's going one to the next one, memorizing their face. She's just 1 foot in front of everyone. So self-controlled. And then she's coming around to me. And I said, uh-oh, what's going to happen now? She looks straight at the person next to me and then moves her eyes as she starts to stand in front of me. She's this close in front of me. And she brings her eyes onto me, and what do I see? Her eyes became as dead as stone. She's right in front of me, and she can't see me. I was saying to myself, Hare Krishna, she can't see. She's looking straight at me from this distance, such a rare sight. And she can't see, just her eyes turned into stones. And then she went to the next person, and I saw her vision come back. And the next person, and finally, she got to her son. And she dragged him out of the circle, pulled him into the kitchen, started beating him. You're having political meetings in my home. You're ruining my career. I trusted you. Mama, no, it's not like. While she's beating him, I'm out the door. I always had a getaway bag packed. So I snuck out the door while she's beating him. And then later that day, the devotees gathered in another location, a safer location, and I asked, what did she say about me? They said, she never saw you. So that was the most dramatic example I ever experienced of how Krishna is the controller of perception. You see what he wants you to see. So in that way, these demoniac kings never saw Rukmini, but they did see the most extraordinary material beauty. But now we're dealing with gore, the opposite. We've talked about pure hatred of Krishna, and you've heard about the pure love of Rukmini. But opposite to the beauty is the gore. And you may wonder, these descriptions in Bhagavatam, are they necessary? Heads fell to the ground by the millions. Some heads wore earrings, helmets, others turbans. The acharyas in their commentary, they actually go into even more detail. There's a scientific order in which the slaying goes on. First, the Yadus took care of the horses because the horses were in front of the forerunners of the enemy. They killed the horses, then behind the horses were elephants. They killed the elephants. Behind the elephants were chariots. They destroyed the chariots. And then what about the people? First they killed those riding the horses, then they killed those riding the elephants, then they killed those on the chariots. This is important because Krishna is involved. This is the Yadu dynasty. And you're hearing Dwarka Leela, in which the sweetness of Krishna of Braj is held in reserve. The opulence of power and majesty is in the foreground. And part of the opulence of power and majesty is great conquest, displays of great strength. When Krishna is in Braj, his Aishvarya comes out through sweetness. So therefore, just by sucking the breast of Putana, he kills her. Just by becoming heavier than the heaviest, he causes Trinavarta to crash to the ground. So he shows his power, but he does it in a way that doesn't disturb the sweetness. But this is Dwarka Leela, so it's full-on battlefield gore. Rukmini, as we heard yesterday, she sees such a battle happening. She's a bit frightened. And she looks into Krishna's eyes. Even in this situation, the pure love is going on unimpeded. She looks in Krishna's eyes, and Krishna looks in her eyes, and what does Krishna see? The fearfulness in her eyes has increased her beauty even more. So Krishna likes that. Don't worry, my dear. Your forces, your army will take care of these enemies. Don't worry. Krishna is achyuta. Generally, we define achyuta as one who never makes mistakes, never falls under the influence of the illusory energy. But the deeper meaning of achyuta is Krishna never fails in rasa exchange. So even on the battlefield, with Rukmini looking at him with fearful eyes, Krishna takes advantage of the opportunity to deepen the relationship. This whole pastime can be seen as one of Vīramohini, Rukmini as Vīramohini, the bewilderer of the chivalrous, powerful warriors. As we said, she did that by presenting to them a false image of herself, false from the absolute spiritual point of view. She gave them a projection. She gave them Maya. That she could do it to such a powerful, most powerful group of demoniac military generals is amazing. Yet we are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we actually prefer not to see Krishna out of Vrindavan. So this mystery of Krishna in Vrindavan, or is he out of Vrindavan, is very fascinating. As Prabhupada writes in the Krishna book, this mystery of whether Krishna leaves Vrindavan or not is something that we should think about. Especially since, as he writes, it's the duty of those in the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya to always stir up feelings of separation from Krishna. Like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they were always bathing in the feelings of separation. Hey Radhe Brajadevike Chalalite, hey Nanda Sunokata. Queen of Vrindavan, where are you? Oh Lalita, oh son of Maharaj Nanda, where are you? I love the way that Prabhupada says that their mission, the mission of the 6 Goswamis was what? Never fulfilled. They never thought, now we have Krishna. They're always, where is he? Where is he? That's a whole other subject matter. How you meet Krishna in the where is he? Where is he? Where is he? You meet him more intensely than you do when there's ordinary meeting with Krishna. Ordinary in terms of how we understand it. Nothing about Krishna, nothing to do with Krishna is ordinary. So Rupa Goswami in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, that gives me a chance to put in a plug for the BBT rendition of Laghu Bhagavatamrita. In Mayapur, I was speaking about Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the BBT edition. Again, not to downplay anyone else's versions, but if you only knew how much work the BBT puts into preparing these renditions it publishes. It just doesn't put them out there. Oh, so much work on the English side, so much work on the Sanskrit side, so much work on a full index. If you only knew how hard it is to make a comprehensive index. So in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami quotes a key verse. He makes it key. Otherwise, you would probably bypass it. Who's heard of the Yamala Tantra? No one. But Rupa Goswami selects that Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano and puts it center stage. Krishnonyo Yadu Sambhuto. The Yadu Kumar Krishna, that Dwarka Krishna, is different from the Krishna of Braj Krishna. The Braj Krishna actually never takes a step out of Vrindavan. So then you say, wait a minute, there's some contradiction here. Rupa Goswami is highlighting that Braj Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but then look, Akrura takes him on the chariot to Mathura. The gopis are in despair. Krishna promises he'll return. Krishna sends Uddhava as a messenger to relieve their pain, and the residents of Vrindavan go to Kurukshetra. That's such a long journey for them. But why would they do that if Krishna had never left? So Rupa Goswami resolves this by pointing out there's Prakat Leela, the manifest Leela, and the Aprakat Leela, the unmanifest Leela. Prabhupada in the Krishna book coins a very fascinating terminology which we've never seen anywhere else. But it's brilliant in its conception. He says Krishna is there in his bhava presence, his presence brought about by pure love. So Rupa Goswami in Laghu Bhagavatamrita explains that there are two ways that Krishna appears in Braj, taking into account that he's always there, actually. He's always there and can manifest at will, just at the right moment when the devotee's feelings of separation reach the peak. So he's always there, but there's the manifest and the unmanifest. In the manifest pastimes, he goes to Mathura and then Dwarka. That Krishna who goes to Mathura and Dwarka, Rupa Goswami says, keeps his Braj stuff private in terms of his Braja sweetness. He keeps that private, so to speak. That's what Rupa Goswami says. So sometimes there's discussion. Is that Yadu Kumar Krishna? Is that really Krishna? The commentators like Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Vishwanath do refer to Krishna and Dwarka as Swayam Bhagavan. It's Swayam Bhagavan who's holding something private. So let's go back to Braj and Krishna's presence there. Keeping in mind, in the unmanifest sense, Krishna's never left. He appears when he wants to, when the feelings of separation reach their peak. How does he do that? He does it in two ways, through revelation and through arrival. Krishna actually returned 2 months after he left through the message of Uddhava. By hearing the message of Uddhava, the message from Krishna delivered by Uddhava, the gopis experienced Krishna's presence as if they had never had that experience before. Like it's the first time. Just by Krishna manifesting through revelation, through Uddhava's delivery of the message. So he was there. And that's why Uddhava spoke to them in the present tense. He said, now that Krishna has killed Kamsa, he'll be here to give you shelter. He used the present tense. So the acharyas point out that the present tense means that something is practically happening the next minute. In fact, it's happening right now. The gopis were experiencing the full presence of Krishna like they'd never experienced before. But this is a presence brought about by revelation. It's still, though, a presence. We have the tendency to think it must be a vitiated or lessened presence because meeting is the real thing. We think like that because we're so hung up on physicality. Flesh and blood and time and space and all those kind of things. But no, actually, the meeting through revelation is the most intense. And therefore, as we said, the gopis said, this is like we've never experienced this before, this freshness of Krishna. And not only that, did Krishna actually go to Mathura? We were just dreaming he did. So what's the other way? Arrival. After Krishna killed Dantavakra and Vidurath, the brother of Dantavakra, he crossed the Jamuna River. He came by chariot. Often his arrivals are by chariot. He came by chariot and he swam across the Yamuna River. Why? To purify himself from battle with the demons, because he's going to Braj. So he spends a few months in Braj and then winds up the Prakat Leela of Vrindavan by sending the expansions of his eternal parshadas, his eternal associates. He sends some of them to Vaikuntha, some of them are demigods, they go back to their posts. And the prime associates, the eternal associates of his inner core, they enter into uppercut Leela. So in this way, Krishna actually never leaves Vrindavan, and he also never leaves Mathura and Dwarka. The Leelas are still going on there, unmanifest. Just like Vrindavan has its potencies, so does Dwarka. Rupa Goswami explains that Vrindavan can expand and contract according to the need of Krishna's Leelas. You read, as Lord Chaitanya explains in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he tells Sanatana Goswami, in some corner of Vrindavan, there are all the Vaikuntha planets and all the material universes. Try to understand that with your calculating abilities. Just by our hearing that Krishna danced with billions of gopis on the bank of the Yamuna, we can't figure that out. So what is the nature of this expansion and contraction of the Dham? It happens in three ways. The mountains, the trees, the rivers, the land can shift. These different components of the Dham shift, sometimes separately. This part of nature will change, or that part of nature will change. Sometimes together, it all changes at once. And sometimes first one, then the other, then the other, then the other. So Rupa Goswami explains that Dwarka is the same way. When Krishna wanted to wind up his pastimes in this world, he arranged that everything in Dwarka disappears except his palace and the palace of the Yadu chieftains. Everything else is gone. Gone in terms of you can't see it. But Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka are eternal. They're unmanifest. The same in Mathura. You know that Krishna emptied out Mathura. The Shastra says, Sarva Janan. Not a single person remained. And he took them all to Dwarka. But does that mean the end of Krishna's Mathura Leela? No. It goes on beyond ordinary perception. So we like to hear about Krishna in Braj because we're followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nevertheless, Krishna does have his Dwarka Leela. And we're in the midst of that Dwarka Leela in a most ferocious way. The gore of the battlefield. These Kshatriyas are showing you the glory of controlled violence. Sometimes people can't get over. How come there's such gore and violence and battles? They can't even understand the Battle of Kurukshetra, what to speak of this. But everything is there in the Supreme Absolute Truth. These Kshatriyas, as you heard, they couldn't tolerate insults. They couldn't tolerate the bravery of the other side, as we heard in text 6. Could not tolerate the aggression of the opposing kings. This is felt only by a certain section of the population. There are not many Kshatriyas. So this Ishwara Bhav, Yuddhe Chapyapalayanam, refusal to turn your back to an insult, refusal to turn your back in battle, this is only felt by a small section of the population. Revenge. Oh, Shishupal's cronies were so angry when Krishna took Rukmini. First of all, there are different aspects to Rukmini's joining Krishna on the chariot. As we heard yesterday, how Krishna slowly moved away on his chariot. Instead of, let's get out of here. He just moved so slowly, defiantly. Rukmini, the acharyas explain, approached the chariot very slowly because she wanted to respect the religious procession. She didn't just want to dart from the religious procession onto the chariot. So her lotus feet, and she's described as moving like a royal swan. So very slowly she went to the chariot out of respect that she's in a religious procession. And then Krishna picked her up onto the chariot, some say onto his lap, and so slowly rode away. The demoniac kings, they were stunned. First of all, they're just now recovering from collapsing on the ground, seeing the external Rukmini's beauty. And then they said, what is this? This animal is taking what is meant for the lions. They saw themselves in that way. How can we be real kshatriyas when we're allowing these cowherd people to take away the bride? These cowherd people who carry sticks, live in the forest, and pay taxes. What kind of heroes are we? But they're heroes who are vīrā mohita. They're bewildered heroes. Bewildered by Rukmini. So this huge battle is now happening, and you're hearing about millions of severed heads. This is Dwarka Leela, the inconceivable power of the Supreme Lord, as we said, shown in such a dramatic way. Yet that same Yadu dynasty is going to be finished. As you know, from several places in the Bhagavatam, it's described, the Moshala Leela. How this Yadu dynasty is so powerful, as you're seeing now, as you're hearing about now, that Krishna is thinking, they'll never be able to handle separation from me when I disappear, when my Prakat Leela ends. They won't be able to handle this. They'll trample the whole world. They'll destroy the whole earth. So Krishna arranged for the exit of the Yadu dynasties, something only he could do. So finally, though you know the battle is over, Rukmi is embarrassed. His mates, his cronies, abandon him. Hey, this battle's getting a bit severe. We're losing a lot of men just because of you. You were the one who was supposed to marry her, not us. Why should we put our neck on the line for you? This is material life. You find out soon who your real friends are. But Jarasandha makes the presentation to him, as you'll hear in the next days, in such a tactful way. You know, happiness, distress, comes and goes, a time factor. Goodbye. What is Shishupal looking like? He's lost all his color. The acharyas say that means he's stunned. His words, he can't talk. His limbs, he can't move. I lost her. I lost her. He's immobilized. So then, you know, there's the wedding. An interesting final point about the wedding. And Prabhupada discloses it in the Krishna book. It's also there in the Acharya's commentaries. Some say that Nanda Maharaj and the men of Braj and Yashoda Mai and the ladies of Braj attended the wedding of Rukmini and Krishna. It'd be interesting to know more about that. It seems like two different worlds combining. It seems like Kurukshetra or something. But Prabhupada gives us that hint, and it's also there in the Srimad Bhagavatam commentary. Some or other Braj Leela keeps sneaking in. All right. Any questions?
Yes, thank you very much, Maharaj. It was a very wonderful analysis of the intricacies in all these Leelas. Now it brought to mind, in the famous statement of Lord Kṛṣṇa in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tatvataha, that if we understand the transcendental unique nature of Krishna's pastimes, then we become eligible to go back to home. So how is that realization available? Simply by reading Prabhupada's books, or by seva, or by chariotika, like the commentaries? Is there a special process to attain that realization?
Yasya deve para bhakti.
Okay, very good. Very good. But one has to become eligible, eh?
What's that?
Eligible for that? Or
well,
simply,
if you want to listen to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and I'll understand the program that Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur have given us. You serve Gauranga in Dasya, and that opens the door to everything else.
the whole ISKCON program. The whole ISKCON.
That's Dasya for Gauranga, serving Gauranga. And when that Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, so we can understand what you say is the ISKCON program, it's Mahaprabhu's program. He explains that when the Dasya to Gauranga reaches full maturity, then everything else opens up for you.
You're saying that Krishna never leaves, but he remains in his bhava form. So when the gopas and gopis and different associates of Krishna think of him, do they actually, is that just an emotional feeling that he is with me now in this mood of bhava, but he's not really physically there?
He's there. Remembrance of Krishna in its most ripe experience means Krishna is there fully, without a doubt. So that's why Rupa Goswami explains, they had him when Uddhava's relaying the message. They had Krishna like they never had before, and they thought, what is this about him going to Mathura? That was only a dream. He's here. But Krishna waits, Rupa Goswami explains, until he chooses his moments. It's like intense and more intense and more intense. So it's not like, well, is he there or is he not? It's all about different degrees of intensity. So I was explaining in Mayapur, Sanatana Goswami's point in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that Krishna says, the proof that the pain of separation is the most enjoyable is that all the great devotees want that pain, that so-called pain of separation. Krishna himself wants it. Of course, he experiences that as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he said there's one group, there's one exception who don't aspire for that Vipalamba Bhava, Vīrāḥ Bhava more specifically. There's one group that doesn't aspire for that, and that's the gopis, because they're always feeling acute separation from Krishna, constantly, because they're always thinking, even when Krishna is present, he may go at any moment. So they're always in that bhava. They're the exception. Everyone else aspires for this vīrāḥ bhava because it's the greatest joy. So Krishna goes through various stages of explaining to you, I know what you think. You think first there's pain and then there's the nectar. No pain, no gain. Krishna explains it in that way first for the neophyte. He says, it seems to be this way, that first there's deprivation and then gratification. First you suffer. The more you suffer, the more you can enjoy. So that's something we can relate to. And when you're enjoying, you think any moment that can change to pain, because that's our experience in the material world. Pain follows pleasure, pleasure follows pain. So Krishna first seems to explain it in that way, this phenomenon. He says, as if. The vīrāḥ bhava seems to be like this. But then Krishna, so to speak, puts his foot down, as we would say, and says, but actually, why is it that the greatest devotees always aspire for this so-called pain of separation? It's because actually it's the greatest enjoyment. Everyone, meaning the greatest devotees, they aspire for this, and even Krishna himself aspires this, but not the gopis. They're always in a state of constant vīrāḥ bhava, even when with Krishna. In fact, their worry sometimes is we're afraid to remember Krishna because we become so disrupted. So, much better explanation than I can give is there in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Do we have any questions from the Vaishnavis? Sing out. I've got an eye ailment, so I can't see way in the back. But
is it? It's not good. So in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the first part, so Krishna is describing to Mother Yashoda, the form of Mother Yashoda, that he had a dream. And in that dream, he was a king. He has so many wives. But it was just a dream. And he never Vrindavan Lila of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
all right. You want a BBT Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you go to Ishwar Prabhu. All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Lord Srila Prabhupada.
Hari Bol.